Om Ajnanatimandasya Snanslashakaya Saksamritam Yena Tasmai Sravenma Vankakalptavisha Kripasanvivsa Patnapavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namam Namo Vishnupadaya Savastaya Vutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachari Dasatari. Hare Krishna. So, this morning we will start with chapter 14, the system of universal management. It's a short chapter. I will not put very much attention to it. It's a short chapter that we'll look at the main points. And but there is one question, and you can note this question and try to answer it for yourself while we are going to the chapter. I put this question also in the chat, so that yes, we will also look at chapter 15 today. That Bali Maharaj conquers the heavenly planet. And we will go to this entire chapter and even start chapter 16, because chapter 16 we will discuss tomorrow, but it's a very big chapter. So we may already start or begin this chapter. So just a moment, I'm back in a moment. Okay, chapter 14, the system of universal management. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We have read text 1 and 2. Siracho Vacha Mamvanteshu Bhagavan Yata Man Adayastume Yasmin Karmani Yena Niyuktas Tat Vadasvame. Maharaj Pariksit inquired, O most opulent Sukadev Goswami, please explain to me how Manu and the others in each Manvantar are engaged in their respective duties, and by whose order they are so engaged. Sukadev Goswami replies, the Manus, the sons of Manu, the great sages, the Indras, and the demigods, O king, are appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his various incarnations, such as Chakya. So who is appointing Indra and the seven sages? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. So 71 times in each Manu, the sages have to re-establish the principles of religion that we will learn in the next text. That's their function. But in these first two texts, we hear how the Manus get their position. Not only the Manus, also Indra and all the demigods, they are appointed by the incarnation of the Lord. So this is how they get all their positions. Text 3 and 4. O king, I've already described to you various incarnations of the Lord, such as Jahya, the Manus, and others are chosen by these incarnations, under whose direction they conduct the universal affairs. Purport. The Manus execute the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his various incarnations. Text 4. At the end of every yuga, the great saintly persons, upon seeing that eternal occupational duties of mankind have been misused, re-establish the principles of religion. So, well, in the life of one Manu, 71 times these sages and Indra appear, and they have to re-establish these principles of religion. So this happens 71 times in a Manu's life. They have to re-establish the religious principles. He lives for 71 Divya Yuga. So this means that it was practically a regular affair to re-establish all the religious principles again and again, practically almost every year. Yes, so he lives for 71 yugas, and everyone lives 100 years. So every year and a half or so he has to do this work, Manu. And the sages, the great saintly persons, they help him. So, purport in verse 3. So, in this verse, the word Dharma and Sanatana are very prominent. So, just imagine what will it be after 432,000 years. 42,000 years is the total span of Kali Yuga. 5,000 years passed, 427,000 years to go. So next 10,000 years we have our Harinam Sankirtan, but after that it's going to be very, very bad. So we continue reading that the duty of saintly persons, therefore, is to take up seriously the cause of Sanatana Dharma, and try to re-establish it for the benefit of the entire human society. The Krishna conscious movement has been started according to these principles. The entire Kali Yuga is full of faults. It's like an unlimited ocean of faults. But the Krishna movement, the Hare Krishna movement, is very authorized. That's Srila Prabhupada says, yes, these saintly persons, that they must re-establish this Sanatana Dharma. So Srila Prabhupada has his superior orders, and we have our superior orders to re-establish the religious principles. And now they are lost in Kali Yuga. So it is said, now if the inaugurators of this movement strictly follow the regulative principles and spread the movement for the benefit of all humanity, for all human society, they will certainly use it in a new way of life by re-establishing Sanatana Dharma, the occupational duties of humanity. So if we help to spread this movement, then we are doing the same as the Manu and the sages, what they do at the end of 4 yugas. If we are part of this movement, then we have the same duty as these great sages. That it said, the eternal occupational duty of the human being is to serve Krishna. Shiveras Rupahoy, Krishna Nityadas. This is the purport of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatan means Nitya or eternal, and Krishna Das means servant of Krishna. The eternal occupational duty of the human being is to serve Krishna. This is the sum and substance of the Krishna conscious movement. So what is the sum and substance of the Hare Krishna movement? It's to serve Krishna. The essence of the movement is serving Krishna. Even today, the meaning of duty, it's lost. Duty to the parents, duty to the governments. In the future, parents will eat their children. Now already they have abortion, killing their own children in the womb. So there is no morality. There is only anxiety and great wars. And this is going on. So Narayan Prabhu is asking Srila Prabhupada. He was there in a conversation that is in 1969 with Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada and was together with Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg was a hippie poet. It's called the Beat Generation. But he was helping Prabhupada. They organized big kirtans together in New York and San Francisco. They organized a big Avalon ballroom event. So Allen Ginsberg, of course, he may be happy he's not there anymore. He passed away about 20 years ago. Allen Ginsberg may be happy that the devotees are remembering his name. Wherever he may be, appreciation, they appreciate his service for Srila Prabhupada until today. So Allen Ginsberg left this world on the 4th of May 1997. I remember that, at the age of 70. So Prabhupada described how bad Kali Yuga was going to get, how there would be no plants or trees anymore. All animals would be carnivorous, and all animals will eat people. People will all be cannibals. There will be big seats surrounded by skin, and the few devotees that would be there would live in caves. If you come back to Kali Yuga, then you will be living in a cave. And Allen Ginsberg asked Srila Prabhupada, and your disciples, Srila Prabhupada? He asked Srila Prabhupada, what about your disciples? Srila Prabhupada said, my disciples will have come back to Godhead by then. So that's very inspiring. So don't go to Svarga, because when you ended the pose of pious activities and you will return, you may return to the earth for the end of Kali Yuga. So don't do that either. Then Allen Ginsberg said, "Oh, really?" And Srila Prabhupada replied, "Yes, they are advanced, my disciples. They are going back to Godhead very shortly." For their confidence he had in his disciple, that they are chanting and they are following the process. They are becoming pure devotees in this lifetime. So that is true for everyone who follows Srila Prabhupada. If you are following Srila Prabhupada, chanting 16 rounds and following the regulative principles so many times, he guaranteed that you are going back to God, that you are going back to Godhead. And Allen Ginsberg asked, "And what will happen to the rest of us?" Srila Prabhupada said, "At the end of Kali Yuga, I will eat you and you will eat me. To avoid this, you must go back to Godhead." These predictions are already happening, and we are only 5,000 years in Kali Yuga. The next 10,000 years will not be too bad. But if you go to Svarga, then you make it for living in the caves. Don't do it. Go back in this lifetime. Don't come back here. Text 5. Thereafter, O king, the Manus, being fully engaged according to the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, directly re-establish the principles of occupational duty in its full 4 parts. So that is Varnashram, of course. So Dharma or occupational duty can be established in its full 4 parts as explained in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, "Iman vishvasvateyo gam bhaktavan am afyaram vivashvan manave prahan manurikshvakave bhavit." I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivashvan, and Vivashvan instructed to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn explained to Ikshvaku that this is a process of disciplic succession following the same process. The Krishna conscious movement is teaching the principles of Bhagavad Gita as it is, without deviation, all over the world. If the fortunate people of this time accept the instructions of Lord Krishna, they will be happy in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted everyone, at least in India, to become a preacher of this mission. In other words, one should become a guru and preach the instructions all over the world for the peace and prosperity of humanity. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining what is happening right now. It's the same that happens at the end of each of 4 yugas with the Manus and the sages. So they spread the Krishna conscious movement all over the world and re-established the principles of religion. When Prahlad Maharaj, when he was preaching to his friends, he said, "My dear young friends, born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, and thus become their well-wishers." So that is also our instruction, text 6, that to enjoy the results of sacrifices, Jahyas, the rulers of the world, namely the sons and grandsons of Manu, discharge the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until the end of Manu's reign. The demigods also share the results of these sacrifices. So in the middle of the purport, Anyone interested in peaceful life must participate in this parampara system and perform jagyas. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas in the parampara system of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must perform Sankirtan Jagya all over the world. Jagner Sankirtana Prayer Yanti Sumedasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this age of Kali, and he will be easily satisfied if the Sankirtan movement is spread vigorously all over the world. This will make people happy without a doubt. So, do we want a peaceful life? In the 60s, the hippies, they wanted a peaceful life. We need peace, but we need also peace to perform our devotional service. So we have to be convinced of this, how to make people happy by spreading the Sankirtan movement all over the world. And also to ourselves, we must also be engaged in chanting and preaching. Of course, this is Yayatma Shubha Siddhati. Then one gets internal happiness, peace, that only by pure devotion service. Text 7. Indra, king of heaven, receiving benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus enjoying highly developed opulences, maintains the living entities all over the three worlds by pouring sufficient rain on all the planets. In every yuga, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, assumes the form of siddhas such as Sanak to preach transcendental knowledge. He assumes the form of great saintly persons such as Jagyavalkya to teach the way of karma, and he assumes the form of great yogis such as Dattatreya to teach the system of mystic yoga. So that's here we hear about all these different sages that so it's a short purport that read the first lines that for the benefit of all human society, not only does the Lord assume the form of Manu as an incarnation to rule the universe properly, but he also assumes the forms of a teacher, yogi, jnani, and so on, for the benefit of human society. So not only Manu is an incarnation, but also these sages, they are all incarnations, it's said here. That's interesting. So the duty of human society, therefore, is to accept the path of action enunciated by the Supreme Lord. What is that path of action here described? Varnashram, that Jagnarta, Karmanoyatra, Lokayam, Karmabandhana, doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. It's also Sarvadaram, Prishya, Mamakam, Sramvacha, 1866. This is all the path of action. That is what we need to preach all over the world. Most people have already given up Sarvadharma. They gave up all religion. But they have to do the second part, that surrender to Krishna. So that is the first Srila Prabhupada wanted us to preach. That's Lord Chaitanya. He said, yes, whenever you meet, instruct them. And this is the instruction. This is what the Manu and the sages are giving to everyone. So in the present age, the sum and substance of all Vedic knowledge is to be found in Bhagavad Gita, which is personally taught by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the same Supreme Lord assuming the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expands the teaching of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari is so kind and merciful to human society that he is always anxious to take the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. So now, text 9. In the form of Prajapati, Marichi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates progeny, becoming the king. He kills the thieves and rogues, and in the form of time, he annihilates everything. All the different qualities of material existence should be understood to be qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the creation, maintenance, and destruction are all qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We heard that already in the second canto, 2.739. I'll read the translation of that verse. At the beginning of creation, there are penance, myself, Brahma, and the Prajapatis, the great sages, would generate them during the maintenance of the creation. There are Lord Vishnu, the demigods with controlling powers, and the kings of different planets. But at the end there is irreligion, and then Lord Shiva and the atheist, full of anger. All of them are different representatives, manifestations of the energy of the Supreme Power, the Lord. So you remember that when we discussed the beginning of this canto, how did the Lord help everyone in churning the ocean of milk? He infused the demons with rajas, the devas with sattva, and Vasuki with tamas, or ignorance. Everyone was tired, and just to get it going on, the Lord infused everyone with their respective modes. So he can do everything. Text 10. People in general are bewildered by the illusory energy, and therefore they try to find the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through various types of research and philosophical speculation. Nonetheless, they are unable to see the Supreme Lord. Purport. Whatever actions and reactions take place for the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this material world are actually brought about by one Supreme Person. There are many varieties of philosophers trying to search for the ultimate cause and under different names and forms, but they are unable to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who explains in Bhagavad Gita that he is the origin of everything and the cause of all causes. Ham Sarvasya Prabhavo. This inability is due to the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. Devotees accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is and remain happy simply by chanting the glories of the Lord. So that's at the end of the purport. He says, yes, this inability is due to the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. But devotees accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they remain simply happy by chanting. So, who was happy like that? Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was happy just chanting your glories, the glories of the Lord. But he said, I'm happy, Prahlad Maharaj, because I'm still lamenting for the fools and rascals. That this is, I want to go back to the 6th canto, 6.3.25. Because they are bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Valka and Jaimini and other compilers of religious scriptures cannot know the secret, cannot know the confidential religious systems of the 12 Mahajans. They cannot understand the transcendental value of performing devotional service or chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, because their minds are attracted to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, especially the Yajur Veda, Samaveda, and Rig Veda. Their intelligence has become dull. Thus they are busy collecting the ingredients for ritualistic ceremonies that yield only temporary benefits, such as elevation to Svargaloka for material happiness. They are not attracted by the Sankirtan movement. Instead, they are interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. That we heard. That's in the purport of 6.3.25. So Siddha Swami, in his commentary on this verse, he gives a very nice example. He says, in Ayurvedic medicine, when you get a fever, then they prescribe 3 bitter medicines: Neem, Kalmik, and Shirata. They are very bitter. Siddha Swami compares these bitter medicines to all the other paths, because they don't know Miti, Sanjivani. That they don't know that there is a very nice medicine called Miti, Sanjivani. This medicine brings the dead back to life. Our medicine that brings the dead back to life is the holy name and chanting Hare Krishna. Yes, this is the medicine, and they don't know about it. Pavav Shadak Shodva Mano Biramat. 10.4 we'll hear in the 10th canto. Instead, they go for bitter medicines. So one who doesn't chant Hare Krishna and goes for the other paths, goes for the bitter medicines, which only give temporary relief. Now the last verse. In one kalpa, or one day of Brahma, there take place many changes called vikalpas. O king, all these have been previously described to you by me. Learned scholars who know the past, present, and future have ascertained that in one day of Brahma there are 14 Manus. So that's the end of this chapter. A vikalpa in these verses means the changes during one kalpa or one day of Brahma. So we have a Mahakalpa. The Mahakalpa is a kalpa of Karanodakasaya Vishnu. Mahavishnu, that's called Mahakalpa. And the creation of Brahma is called Vikalpa. And the creation of Brahma every day is called Kalpa. So by that we can reconcile these two meanings of Vikalpa. It's the creation of Brahma or the changes during one day of Brahma. So how to reconcile that? A vikalpa is technically a division of time. That you can divide the creation of Brahma in kalpas, in days of Brahma. So in the Mahakalpa there are vikalpas, and in Brahma's creation there are always also vikalpas. But the kalpas are much smaller in Brahma's creation. this. But in Brahma's creation, there are also vikalpas, but smaller. So vikalpa is technically a division of time. So that is a very short chapter here, and we will soon continue with the next chapter. But I want to pause for 10 minutes till 4:45. But before we break, please consider this question, which is on the screen now, and just answer this question that in one sentence and put it in the chat. We will not discuss that right after the break, but at the end. Just write one line in the chat, not more, one sentence, as an answer to this question. And I'm sure you will all get it right. So we are having a break now till 4:45, right? No, 4:45, 10 minutes. That I'm in another time zone here. So it's 4:35 in India, and it was 4:45 in 10 minutes spirit zone. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, we are back. We will continue now with chapter 15. So we had an interruption of this pastime, this fight between the demigods and the demons, Indra and Bali Maharaj. Between we heard from the bewilderment of Lord Shiva by Moini Mukti. We heard about the organization of the universe and their and the universal management. And now we are back to the pastime, Bali Maharaj. So chapter 15, Bali Maharaj conquers the heavenly planets. Shiracha Vacha Bale Pada Tayam Bhume Kashmatarya Ayasata Puteshvara Kipanaval Laptartopi Babandatam Itaviditam Ichamu Mat Kautu Halamina Shaknesvarasya Purnasya Bandhanam Cha Anagasa. Maharaj Pariksit inquired that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything. Why did he beg the 3 pieces of land from Bali Maharaj like a poor man when he got the gift for which he had begged? Why did he nonetheless arrest Bali Maharaj? I'm very anxious to know the mystery of these contradictions. So here, in chapter 15, there is one question, and that's a short question, but we'll hear that in text 29. If you want to know the answer on this question, what causes material and spiritual success? I put it in the chat here, everyone. There. There it is. Yes. Good. Text that was the question of Maharaja Pariksit. And Sukadeva Goswami starts to answer. Text 3 and 4. Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, when Bali Maharaj lost all his opulence and died in a fight, Sukacharya, a descendant of Briha Muni, brought him back to life. Because of this, the great soul Bali Maharaj became a disciple of Sukacharya and began to serve him with great faith, offering everything he had. The Brahmin descendants of Briha Muni were very pleased that with Bali Maharaj, who desired to conquer the kingdom of Indra. So that was the desire of Bali Maharaj, to conquer the kingdom of Indra. Therefore, after purifying him and properly bathing him, according to the regulative principles, they engaged in the performing of Jagya, known as Vishvajit. Jagya known as Vishvajit. Vishvajit means conquering the universe. It's the name of the sacrifice says it all. Conquering the universe, Vishvajit. Yes, Vishvajit. So, text 5. When ghee clarified butter was offered in the fire of sacrifice, there appeared from the fire a celestial chariot covered with gold and silk. And there also appeared yellow horses, like those of Indra, and a flag marked with a lion. Who is that lion? You sing that it? That's interesting. Text 6. A glided bow took quivers of infallible arrows, and celestial armor also appeared. Bali Maharaj's grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, offered Bali a garland of flowers that would never fade. And Sukacharya gave him a conch shell. When Bali Maharaj had thus performed a special ritualistic ceremony advised by the Brahmins and had received by their grace equipment for fighting, he circumambulated the Brahmins and offered them obeisances. He also saluted Prahlad Maharaj and offered obeisances to him. Text 8-9. Then after getting on the chariot given by Sukacharya, Bali Maharaj, decorated with a nice garland, put protective armor on his body, equipped himself with a bow, and took up a sword and quiver of arrows. When he sat down on the seat of the chariot, his arms decorated with golden bangles and his ears with sapphire earrings, he shone like a worshipful fire. So Pujam Prabhu commented here on this. Imagine the demons nowadays and the demons in those days. The demons in those days were more pious, right? To get his victory, he took shelter of the Brahmins. We see also Ravan, he had his Rakshasi Brahmins who were chanting the Vedic hymns before he was going to the battle with Ram. So they knew, they had knowledge of where the power comes from. So to get victory, Bali Maharaj took shelter of the Brahmins. The demons nowadays, they would not think of doing that. It's just on their own strength. Success comes from the sanction of higher powers. Yes. Success comes from the sanction of higher powers. So he needed help. This is the difference between the demons in those days and the demons nowadays. Yes. He was worshipping Shukracharya. his so-called spiritual master. He was expert in karma kanda, but nonetheless, Shukracharya was worshipping in the sacrifices Lord Vishnu because he was the object of the sacrifice. He knew that. So text 10:11. When he assembled with his own soldiers and the demon chiefs who were equal to him in strength, opulence, and beauty, they appeared if they would swallow the sky and burn all directions with their vision. And thus scattering the demoniac soldiers, Bali Maharaj departed for the opulent capital of Indra. Indeed, he seemed to make the entire surface of the world tremble. So Bali, he wanted to take over the heavenly planets. So to go there, he got actually the mercy of the Brahmins. The heavenly planets are very opulent. So he could go there on the strength of the piety of the Brahmins. Because the demons had no piety. On their strength. Text 12. King Indra's city was full of pleasing orchards and gardens, such as the Nandana garden. Because of the weight of the flowers, leaves, and fruit, the branches of the eternally existing trees were bending down. The gardens were visited by pairs of chirping birds and singing bees. The entire atmosphere was celestial. So we have a commentary on verse 12 by Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami condemns the pleasure of the heavenly planets. Fie on the material pleasures, he says. Gramya Sukha. All of a sudden, Indra and all the other demigods had to leave this kind of, have to leave their city. So now we will hear a beautiful description of the heavenly planets so you get this beautiful place, heaven, like Indra and the heavenly residence, and then you have to leave. So what is the use of getting such a beautiful place? Now we are going to hear what is heaven like. What is heaven? How is it there? What are they doing there? Okay, text 13:14. Beautiful women protected by the demigods sported in the gardens, which had lotus ponds full of swans, cranes, chakravakas, and ducks. The city was surrounded by trenches full of Ganges water, known as Akash Ganga, and by a high wall, which was the color of fire. Up on this wall were parapets for fighting. So the Akash Ganga is also described, we have heard it in the 5th canto, the Ganga in the sky, in the Milky Way. So a part of that is in Indrapuri, the Akash Ganga. Purijan Prabhu said, there are places for fighting. So why are there places of fighting in heavenly planets? Must also be fear there. The They were fearful because the demons could come at any time. Therefore, they have a defense system. 15. The doors were made of solid plates and the gates were excellent marble. These were linked by various public roads. The entire city has been constructed by Vishvakarma. So, yeah, what else did Vishvakarma create? That he created the Sudharma meeting hall, which were brought to Dwarka. He created the whole city of Dwarka. He was also the sculptor of Lord Jagannath. And also he made, we will see later, he created the beautiful place in Sutal for Bali Maharaj. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said that Sutal must be as opulent as Indraloka. And Vishvakarma is a Prajapati because his daughters married the sun god. Text 16. That the city was full of courtyards, white roads, assembly houses, and not less than 100 million airplanes. 100 million airplanes. The crossroads were made of pearl, and there were sitting places made of diamond and coral. That 100 million airplanes. And they did not need an air traffic control tower. Interesting. This means that there must be more than 100 million people, right? So it's a city, a huge city. There's a lot of people in the city there. That takes 17, 18, 19. Everlastingly beautiful and youthful women who were dressed with clean garments glittered in the city like fires with flames. They all possessed the quality of Siam. The breezes blowing in the streets of the city bore the fragrance of the flowers falling from the air of the women of the demigods. Apsaras passed on the streets, which were covered with white fragrant smoke of agro, incense emanating from the windows with golden filigree. So nice smell of incense instead of nasty traffic fumes in the west on this planet. Text 20. The city was shaded by canopies decorated with pearls, and the domes of the palaces had flags of pearl and gold. The city always resounded with the vibrations of peacocks, pigeons, and bees. And above the city flew airplanes full of beautiful women who constantly chanted auspicious songs that were pleasing to the ear. So we have heard about the sights there and the smells, and now we are hearing about the sounds. That 21. The city was filled with the sounds of bridangas, conch, kettle drums, flutes, and well-tuned stringed instruments, all playing in concert. There was constant dancing, and the Gandharvas sang. The combined beauty of Indrapuri defeated beauty personified. So no one was sinful, envious toward other living entities. No cunning, no false proud, no lusting or greed could enter that city. The people who lived there were all devoid of these faults. that 20, yeah. So they are enjoying, and suddenly, what happens? Text 23. Bali Maharaj was a commander of numberless soldiers, gathered his soldiers outside the abode of Indra and attacked it from all directions. He sounded the counsel given him by spiritual master Sukracharya, thus creating a fearful situation for the women protected by Indra. So you see here on the picture Indra, and there is his Bali and all his soldiers coming. So they are enjoying, and suddenly the sound of Bali Maharaj's counsel comes, and it shatters the peaceful atmosphere. So verse 22 describes the qualities of those who cannot enter the heavenly planet. They are these are basically qualities of passion and ignorance. The demigods are in a mode of goodness. Of course, behind everything is lust, but there are different modes of nature. That the heavenly planets are in a mode of goodness. When we have symptoms of the lower modes, you cannot go to the heavenly planets. You stay in the lower planets or on the earth. This is described in Bhagavad Gita also. The modes are mixed, but those in the heavenly planets are basically in goodness. So Bali Maharaj and the demons, they took shelter of the Brahmins, who were in a mode of goodness. It was because of the piety of the Brahmins. By their own strength, they could not go to the heavenly planets. They are in the lower modes. They were demons, but on the strength of Brihu, the Brahmins, they could go. So Brihu is origin of Sukracharya, who is the guru of the demons. Brihu and Angira are sons of Brahma. The sons of Brihu, the son of Brihu is Sukracharya. And Angira is the father of Yaspati, spiritual master of demigods. So, if we go back to the Srimad Bhagavatam 4, 9, 10. This is by Dhruva Maharaj. He's saying, "My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from the pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks himself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one with the Supreme." So since Brahmananda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating thought of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. Now we are talking about going to the heavenly planets. Like we can think of an analogy about going to the heavenly planets. Srila Prabhupada uses the analogy of the Ferris wheel. It goes up and down, goes up and down. That you find it in amusement parks. It's like you fly with an airplane, but you have to come back to the earth before the fuel is finished. that so people perform pious activities, they go up, and when the pious activities are finished, they come down. We heard the description of the heavenly planets: peace, music, dancing, enjoyment, and all of a sudden, the conchal of Bali Maharaj. And it's all finished. Text 24. Seeing Bali Maharaj's indefatigable endeavor and understanding his motive, King Indra, along with the other demigods, approached his spiritual master Brihaspati and spoke as follows. So Indra approached Brihaspati to get an answer. What is happening here? And now that we read till verse 28. My lord, our old enemy, Bali Maharaj, now has new enthusiasm, and he has obtained such astonishing power that we think that perhaps we cannot resist his prowess. No one anywhere can counteract this military arrangement of Bali's. It now appears that Bali is trying to drink up the entire universe with his mouth, lick up the 10 directions with his tongue, and raise fire in every direction with his eyes. Indeed, he has arisen like the annihilating fire as known as Samvartaka. Kindly inform me. So, what is the cause? So, what is the cause for Bali Maharaj's strength, endeavor, influence, and victory? How has he become so enthusiastic? Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigod, said, O Indra, I know the cause for your enemies becoming so powerful. The Brahmin descendant of Brihamuni, being pleased by Bali Maharaj, their disciple, endowed him with such extraordinary power. So this is the reason why the demons could go to the heavenly planets. They got Brahman Tejas. They got empowered by the Brahmins. That we read in the purport a few lines down. That Brihaspati informed Indra that Bali Maharaj's prowess was not his own, but that of his exalted guru, Sukracharya. So it was not his own power, but the power of Sukracharya that propelled him up there. So there are other examples of this in the Mahabharata, of someone, don't remember exactly where it's in the Mahabharata, but I read it, someone who was sent to heaven by some gurus. That was Trisanka, I think. He was sent up. But Indra would send him back down. And he ended up upside down, and his guru stopped him in the middle of the sky, and now he's still there. So he has now his own heaven there in the sky provided by his Guru Maharaj. But he could not maintain it. Yeah. So, Srila Prabhupada writes, Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada yasya prasada nagati kutopi. Because by the pleasure of the spiritual master, one can get extraordinary power, especially in spiritual advancement. We spoke before about Kripa Siddhi. That, remember? Kripa Siddhi. Kripa Siddhi. Someone works hard for money, but someone else meets a wealthy person who gives him the money, and that's the blessing of the spiritual master. That, so Narodam Thakur therefore says, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Siddhiti Karya Akya Aranakariya Mane Asa. Especially for spiritual advancement, one should carry out the bona fide order of the spiritual master. By the parampara system, one can thus be endowed with the original spiritual power coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Evam parampara paptam imam rajasayo vidu. So this is our movement. Our movement is not going to the heavenly planets. But by the spirit, but we get the blessings of the spiritual master. And as we heard in the previous chapter, to help to re-establish the principles, religious principles in this age of Kali, to re-establish Sanatana Dharma, which you all nicely explained, that especially, and why especially in this age of Kali, yes, because all these principles are gone in Kali Yuga. So that is our movement, that is our desire, that is our parampara. Whereas other religions, it seems most of the people want to go to heaven and enjoy that, yes. I remember when I was a child, he said, yes, that God is in heaven, that when you go there, you are served by the angels with a golden spoon, so you get sweet rice. That's the idea of many Christians also. Yeah. But our idea is to go and serve. Krishna is here and he's there, anywhere. This is a purpose of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 772. That Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati said that one can become perfectly successful in the mission of his life if he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of the spiritual master. The acceptance of the words of the spiritual master is Shalta Vakya, which indicates that the disciple must carry out the spiritual master instructions without deviation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that the disciple must accept the words of his spiritual master and his life and soul. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here confirms this, saying that since his spiritual master ordered him only to chant the holy name of Krishna, he always chanted Hare Krishna mantra according to his direction. Krishna mantra japasada mantra sar. This is our position. We need to accept the instructions as our life and soul. If we don't do that, we go after something else, the heavenly planets, which is like a mirage in the desert. So we continue hearing from Brihaspati 29. Neither you nor man, neither you nor your man can conquer the most powerful Bali. Indeed, no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead can conquer him, for he is equipped with the supreme spiritual power of Brahma teachers. And no one can stand before Yamaraj, similarly, no one can stand before Bali Maharaj. That is the power of the Brahmins. If one is protected by the Brahmins, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead will not interfere with the situation. That's interesting. That it is not Bali's own power, it's the Brahma teachers from Sukracharya. 30. Therefore, waiting until the situation of your enemies is reversed, you should all leave these heavenly planets and go elsewhere where you will not be seen. So that's the advice of the Guru. He says to Indra, get out of town, because you cannot defeat Bali Maharaj now. He's too powerful, because he has the benedictions of Sukha Acharya. Text 31. Bali Maharaj has now become extremely powerful because of the benedictions given by the Brahmins. But when he later insults the Brahmins, he will be vanquished along with his friends and assistants. That we read his purport. That will clarify the words of Brihaspati. Bali Maharaj and Indra were enemies. Therefore, when Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, predicted that Bali Maharaj would be vanquished when he insulted the Brahmins, by whose grace he had become so powerful. Bali Maharaj's enemies were not very anxious to know what opportune moment would come. To pacify King Indra, Brihaspati assured that the time would certainly come, for Brihaspati could see that in the future Bali Maharaj would defy the orders of Sukacharya in order to pacify Lord Vishnu, Vamandev. Of course, to advance in Krishna consciousness, one can take all risks to please Vamandev. Bali Maharaj risked defying the order of his spiritual master Sukacharya. Because of this, he would lose all his property. Yet, because of the devotion service of the Lord, he would get more than expected. In the future, in the 8th Manvantar, he would occupy the throne of Indra again. The throne of Indra again. So now, after hearing that, Indra is happy. In the future, he will get back heaven. But Srila Prabhupada writes, you must see the purpose of Bali defying the order of his spiritual master. It was to please Vishnu. We'll see that later. So for that, you can take all risk. That is a lecture, Srila Prabhupada on 1.3.19, which is the verse on Vamandev. Says, Bali rejected his spiritual master, and by doing that, he became a Mahajan. By doing that, he became a Mahajan. He's one of the 12 Mahajans, Bali. Generally, you cannot do that because the spiritual master is supposed to take responsibility yes, and we are supposed to be obedient. When you reject your spiritual master, you become a great sinner. So he rejected based on Shastric grounds, because he rejected for Vishnu worship. Such a spiritual master must be rejected. Anything favorable for Krishna consciousness should be accepted, and unfavorable should be rejected. Now we have Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comment on this verse. Insult of the Brahmins is mentioned here only in the social sense. Bali disrespect to the Brahmins was favorable to Vishnu Bhakti. And that's exactly what also Srila Prabhupada is saying here. He's just repeating what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying. And thus it became his great glory. It bestowed upon him Svarga in the form of Sutal. And Vamandev became his doorkeeper. And in the next Manvantar, Bali will become Indra. So by surrendering to Vamandev, we will see that Bali Maharaj will get 3 wonderful benedictions. First, he got Sutal. Then he got the Lord as his doorkeeper, And the third benediction is he will become Indra. So it was only a temporary loss. He still will become Indra. Jiva Goswami says that, yes, that transgressing conventional Guru's words by Bali, who took the side of the Lord. And yeah, he quotes the verse which we heard in the 5th canto. Koruna sasya chifachana nasasya pitana sasya janani nasasya daibamna tasyam napatisna sasya namoksesam upetamityam. One cannot deliver his dependence from the path of birth and death. One who cannot do that should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipful demigod. But Jiva Goswami said, still according to conventional social norms, this has been called disrespect. Such allegiance to the demons is unsuitable for persons like Bali. So he easily gave up this misery, socially considered to be happiness. So by giving charity to the Lord, he got beyond any measure the supreme happiness by engagement in devotional service to the Lord. Then Srimad Bhagavatam 5:24-24 said, alas, how pitiable is it for Indra, the king of heaven, that although he is very learned and powerful, and although he chose Brihaspati as his prime minister to instruct him, is completely ignorant concerning spiritual advancement. Yes, that's the pitiable condition of Indra, that he could completely ignorant of spiritual advancement because of the influence of all the wealth and the attachment to the heavenly enjoyment. But Bali, the Lord became his doorkeeper, completely under his control. And as a side effect, he got Sutal, which exceeds the heavenly planets. And the next month on that, he will become Indra, 32. Shukadev Goswami continued, the demigods, being thus advised by Brihaspati for their benefit, immediately accepted his words. Assuming forms according to their desire, they left the heavenly planets and scattered without being observed by the demons. So I read in the Mahabharata somewhere that Indra took the form of a peacock. So the peacocks and Indra are friends. When the thunder and the rainy clouds come, then the peacocks are dancing. So there's a relationship as Indra took their form, and Yamaraj took the form of a black crow. And because of this, the crows have a special benediction from Yamaraj. Unless someone kills them, they will not die. They have a very long life, the crows. And Sukracharya is a devotee of Vishnu. But he went against his own words. That the Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, they are two Mahajans, two pure devotees. The type of guru that Sukracharya was that he worshipped Vishnu, but as a formality, official. When it helps me, then I worship, but when it's going to harm me, then I go against. When I lose my maintenance, then better not. Vishnu is going to take all our money and I will not have any maintenance. These were the arguments of Sukracharya. These Brahmins are Karmakandiya Brahmins. But they also get power from Vishnu. Without worshipping Vishnu, you won't get success in your Karmakanda. Karmakanda or Smarta Brahmins is another word. Vamandeva Sukracharya, what Bali did wrong, and that you cursed him. after it, at the end of the pastime, that he asked the Vamandev and Shukracharya to talk, and Vamandev said, well, why did you curse him? What went wrong? What's the problem? So yes, if someone is chanting the holy name, then there is no fault. Vishnu, he cannot cheat. But his disciple said, don't give to Vishnu. That was the issue. So now, text 33 and 34. When the demigods had disappeared, Bali Maharaj, the son of Virojan, entered the heavenly planets, and from there he brought the three worlds under his control. The Brahmin descendant of Brihu, being very pleased with their disciple, who had conquered the entire universe, now engaged in performing 100 sacrifices. So 100 Asvamedha sacrifices, that's the number one needs to occupy the position of Indra. So in the purport, we have seen in the dispute between Maharaj Prithu and Indra that when Maharaj Prithu wanted to perform 100 Asvamedha Yagyas, Indra wanted to impede him. For it is because of such great sacrifices that Indra was made king of heaven. Here the Brahmin, the sons of Brihu, decided that although Maharaj Bali was situated on the throne of Indra, he would not be able to stay there unless he performed such sacrifices. Therefore, they advised Bali Maharaj to perform at least as many Asvamedha Yagyas as Indra. The word Ayajayan indicate that the Brahmins induced Bali Maharaj to perform sacrifices. So Bali got there by their power, but to stay there, he got there by the power of Shukracharya and the Brahmins, but to stay there, he had to become qualified. He had to do the work of becoming Indra. We can see the mentality of people long ago and nowadays. They want to satisfy the Brahmins to get power. Today I will bribe someone, and to this or that, or by hook or crook, I will become the president. This is the difference we can see. Even Bali Maharaj, born in a demoniac family, he gets some pious credit. Text 35. When Bali Maharaj performed these sacrifices, he gained a great reputation in all directions through the three worlds. Thus is shown in his position like the brilliant moon in the sky. Because of the favor of the Brahmins, the great soul Bali Maharaj, thinking himself very satisfied, became very opulent and prosperous and began to enjoy the kingdom. Purport. The Brahmins are called Vichadeva, and Kshatriyas are generally called Naradeva. The word Deva actually refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmins guide human society in becoming happy by satisfying Lord Vishnu. In accordance to their advice, the Kshatriyas, who are called Naradev, keep law and order so that other people, namely the Vaishyas and Sudras, may properly follow regulative principles. In this way, people are gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada in the third canto, 3.123, he explains, the sages or persons who completely devoted themselves to spiritual upliftment of the entire society were known as Vichadeva, the best among the twice borns. The denizens of superior planets from the moon planet and upwards were known as Devas. Both the Dvicha Devas and the Devas are always established temples of Lord Vishnu in various forms, such as Govinda, Madhusudan, Nrsimha, Madhav, Narayan, Padmanabh, Parthasarathi, and others. Why is it that they cannot stay there actually? because he does not have the piety to stay. He had the piety to get there, but not the piety to stay. So he will do the 100 Asvamedha Yagyas, but when he's there, he's putting, and while he's there, he's putting the demons in key positions. So the Lord wants the pious people to be in charge of the universe. But sometimes it happens that someone else is getting the management. Then the Lord comes as an incarnation. So Bali is not supposed to be the Indra during this Manu. It was Purandar who was appointed. So he has to take a note by the incarnation of God. So now we are at the end of chapter 15, and it is now 5:35. So we will have a pause till 5:45, and 5:45 we will, for 50 minutes, go into chapter 16, and then we will look at the questions you have posted in the chat. So we resume 10 minutes from now, that at 5:45, 5:45. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue now with chapter 16, the Payo vrata process of worship. The first text. Shishuka uvacha, evam putresu nastesu, devi mata titistada, rite trivistapeda tya, paryataptyat anatavat. Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, when Aditi's sons, the demigods, had thus disappeared from heaven and the demons had occupied their places, Aditi began lamenting as if she had no protector. So Aditi thought she lost what in her mind was the most important thing, that her sons were ruling over the heavenly planets. So she began to lament. Who is Aditi's husband? Kashyapa Muni. Before, in the 3rd canto, we read about Diti. It is not Aditi, but Diti, serving her husband to get a child. And Diti was pleasing him for her own purposes, a type of business dealing. Duplicitous, she wanted to have the child immediately. The result of that was horrible. The result of that union with Diti and Kashyapa was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Then in the same canto we have Kardama Muni and Devahuti. And Devahuti is trying to please her husband, and the result of that union was Kapila Muni, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Two opposite results, a demon and a Lord. And the wives were both trying to please their husband. And they pleased their husband, but the result was completely different because of their mentality, the duplicity and at one side and the simplicity at the other side in the heart. And then at the end of the 6th canto, there we have Diti. Diti tried to please Kashyapa Muni again. Why? Because Diti was very, very angry. Her beloved Asuric children, the Daityas, 2 of them had been killed, and she didn't blame Vishnu, but she blamed Indra. She wanted to kill Indra, but Kashyapa Muni, having been fooled one time after she pleased him, he had a different mood, and he realized that he needed to give her a benediction that is going to purify her. So what he did, he was engaging her in the Lord's worship to such a degree that she gave up her enmity with Vishnu, and the Maruts were born. It is a wonderful pastime as Diti became completely purified by the process of devotional service, and Indra was serving her, and because she was performing devotional service, Indra also became purified. As a result, the Maruts were not demons, but they were made demigods. So that is the third instance. And this is the fourth instance. Aditi was lamenting. Text 2, 3, 4. So after many days, the powerful sage Kashyapa Muni arose from a trance of meditation and returned home to see the ashram of Aditi neither jubilant nor festive. For best of the course, when Kashyapa Muni had been properly received and welcomed, he took his seat and then spoke as follows to his wife Aditi, who was very morose. O most gentle, I wonder whether anything auspicious has now taken place in regard to religious principles, the Brahmins or the other people in general, who are subjects of the whims of death. So, purport, there are prescribed duties for all inhabitants of this material world, especially for the Brahmins, but also for the people in general, who are subject to the whims of death. Kashyapa Muni wondered whether the regulative principles which are meant for the well-being of everyone had been disobeyed. He accordingly continued his inquiries for 7 verses. So, in 6 verses, now Kashyapa Muni, he will inquire about the inauspiciousness that seems to pervade his ashram. So Kashyapa Muni inquired whether Aditi did something inauspicious while I was enwrapped in trance. That text 5. O my wife, who are very much attached to the house of life, if the principles of religion, economic development, and satisfaction of the senses are properly followed in the house of life, one's activities are as good as those of a transcendentalist. I wonder whether there have been any discrepancies in following the principles. So, because there was moroseness and happiness, it seemed that there must be a fault. We will not read the purport now. We will come back to it. But I want to read all these verses first. And then go back until verse 10, and then go back to text 5. Text 6. I wonder whether, because of being too attached to the members of your family, you failed to properly receive uninvited guests and therefore were not welcomed and went away. So here is another cause of inauspiciousness. The Atiti Bhav, you find that many times in the Bhagavatam. Atiti Bhav, that Atiti is an unexpected guest comes to your house. And is not received well, then that is another cause of inauspiciousness. Text 7. Homes from which guests go away without having been received, even with an offering of a little water, are like those holes in the field which are the homes of jackals. So he's asking, that's the purport, the Atiti, the uninvited guest, text 8. O chaste and auspicious woman, when I left home for other places, were you in so much anxiety that you did not offer oblations of ghee into the fire? So he's asking, did you perform the religious principles properly? Have you not treated the guest properly? Did you not offer oblations into sacrificial fire properly? Text 9 and 10. By worshipping the fire and the Brahmins, an householder can achieve the desired goal of residing in the higher planets. For the sacrificial fire and the Brahmins are to be considered the mouth of Lord Vishnu, who is the supersoul of all the demigods. O great-minded lady, are all your sons faring well? Seeing your withered face, I can perceive that your mind is not tranquil. Oh, this is so. The face indicates the mind. So we go back to text 5, the purport. So in this verse, Aditi has been addressed by her husband Kashyapa Muni as Jaya Medini, which means one who is satisfied in life for sense gratification. Generally, household life, those who are in household life pursue sense gratification in the field of activities performed for material results. Such Shyamedis have only one aim in life, sense gratification. Therefore, it is said, Yamaidunada Shyamedi Sukami Tucham, the householder's life is based on sense gratification, and therefore the happiness derived from it is very meager. Nonetheless, the Vedic process is so comprehensive that even a householder life cannot adjust its activities to the regulative principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So Dharma for materialists is meant to get Artha, wealth, and Artha, wealth is meant to get Kam, the fulfillment of desires, and Moksha generally is not much thought of. So one's aim should be to achieve liberation, because one cannot at once give up sense gratification. In the Shastras, our injunctions are prescribing how to follow the principles of religion, economic development, and sense gratification. So this is what most materialists want to enjoy. Even Dharma makes them feel good and pious. Wealth gives them security. Kam gives them power and enjoyment. So the Vedic culture allows to fulfill this desire in such a way that one will step forward towards the absolute truth. He said, as explained in the Bhagavatam, 129, Dharmasya yapavargasya nachtritaya kalpate. All occupational engagement are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Those who are in household life should not think that religion is meant to improve the process of the householder's sense gratification. Household life is meant for advancement in spiritual understanding, by which one can ultimately gain liberation from the material clutches. One should remain in household life with the aim of understanding the ultimate goal of life, tattva jignas. Then household life is as good as the life of a yogi. Kashyapa Muni therefore inquired from his wife whether the principles of religion, economic development, and sense gratification were being properly followed in terms of Shastric injunctions. As soon as one deviates from the injunctions of the Shastra, the purpose of household life is immediately lost in confusion. So, as soon as one deviates from Shastra, the purpose of household life is immediately lost. Confusion, Srila Prabhupada said. If we follow Shastra, even forgetting these material aims, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, then we will be elevated. But if we don't follow Shastra, we will be degraded. Then the purport to text 6, that it is the duty of a householder to receive guests, even if a guest be an enemy. When a guest comes to one's house, one should properly receive him by standing up and offering him a seat. It's enjoyed. Shreya satram api praptam vivastam akuto vayam. If even an enemy comes to one's home, one should receive him in such a way that the guest will forget that his host is an enemy. According to one's position, one should properly receive anyone who comes to one's home. At least a seat and a glass of water should be offered, so that the guest will not be displeased. Kanshapa Muni inquired from Aditi whether disrespect has been shown to such a guest or atitis. The word atiti refers to one who comes without invitation. So it is a duty of a householder to receive guests, even if a guest is an enemy. In other words, no excuses. When a priest comes to one, when a guest comes to one's house, even one is an enemy, one should receive the guest properly. Yes, here, after hearing the words of Kashyapa Muni, Aditi will reply and explain the cause of her moroseness. That begins with text 11, and we will start from that tomorrow, text 11, that we will hear from Aditi. Good. Now it's question time. Let's see here first the questions in the chat. Here the Payo vrata process of worship. So Lord Ram is addressed as Shriya Medi. Even Lord Rishabhadev is also addressed to that. I will have to look it up if you can send me the exact reference, and then we can see about purport and see what is meant there. That also when Peter Maharaj performed 100 Asvamedha Yajnas, in the art of envy he stole the horse. Was that not envy? Yes, sure, he was envious. So there is envy in the heavenly planets. But the envy is not so gross as it is said before in the purport we read. Bhagavad Gita says, yes, that's the demigods, they are predominantly in goodness. But there's not only goodness in the heavenly planets. There's also a tinge of rajas and a tinge of ignorance. And we heard in the purport when Brihaspati spoke to Indra, Srila Prabhupada writes that Indra was not interested in spiritual advancement, in spiritual life. He had no interest in it. It was because he was influenced by ignorance. So that's a problem. Yes, envy is there, although it's of a different nature. that I just think Bhujan Prabhu is explaining that also, that the difference between the heavenly planets and the lower planetary systems. That so envy is also there for sure, and we see Indra, Purandara becomes many times bewildered and envious. That when Satyabhama and Krishna went to the heavenly planets, because Satyabhama has heard, that Rukmini, she got a beautiful Parijata flower from the heavenly planets. She asked Krishna, can I also have such a flower? Krishna said, while we are here, let us take the whole Parijata tree. And he took the tree from Indra's garden, and Indra said, it's mine, this is mine. And he started to fight with Krishna. So again, he was bewildered. So the heavenly planets, because the enjoyment is so strong, the atmosphere for enjoyment, they are very deeply in the bodily concept of life also, although they are predominantly in goodness. If they would be in pure goodness, they would be in the spiritual world, Suddha Sattva, but that's not the case. Then we have here, in 8:15:22, no one who was sinful, envious, violent toward other living entities, false, proud, lusty, or greedy could not enter that city. The people who lived there were all devoid of these faults. But Brihaspati kidnapped his brother's wife and forcibly impregnated her. He said in the Bhagavatam, I remember something else in the 9th canto, Soma, the moon god, stole the wife of Brihaspati. Her name was Tara, and impregnated her. That's in the 9th canto, but I don't remember that. But anyway, you can send me the quote from the Bhagavatam where that is explained. So, yes, still some new message. Yes, this is another message. Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and having no connection with any other woman. Yeah, he was a saintly king, and everything in his character was good, untinged by qualities like anger. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders, in terms of Varnashram Dharma. Thus he taught the general public by his personal activities. So that's the translation of the verse, right?
Maharaj, in Sanskrit, it is. Can I ask Maharaj? Maharaj, in the Sanskrit, the word Graha Medhyani is used, Maharaj.
Yeah, Shriya Medhi, 9:10:54.
Swadharma Graha Medhyani.
9:10:54. So we will go there, just a moment. I see here. Nine, 10,
54.
54. Shriya Mediam, Srila Prabhupada translates, especially of persons situated in household life. That's Srila Prabhupada's translation. So yes, that's okay. That it does, Hiamedi in this context does not mean sense gratifier. It means person situated in household life. And we heard that before in the purpose we read that householders, they want sense gratification, usually. And that can be attained to Dharma, following Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, the religious principles. And that's also a way that will give them pious credits and elevate them to heavenly planets, but they are acting for sense gratification still. But they are pious and they go to heavenly planets. But for devotees, that's not a path. That they are not following this path of gradual elevation to the heavenly planets. That's different. Yes. But anyway, the purpose, the verse, the translation is different here. Since Sanskrit words must be seen according to the context and the meaning of the verse. It's not just that in Sanskrit one word have one meaning. No, many times they have many meanings, and you have to interpret it according to the context. And Srila Prabhupada therefore translates, especially for persons situated in household life, that so he taught, he gave the example for these householders. He does not say that he's a Shayamedi. No, by his household, by his behavior, he showed these Shayamedis how to act according to Varnashram Dharma. So there are those who want Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha and go to the heavenly planets. And Dotram is also helping them. That it's up to us. So that's the point. We have all our desires. But a devotee desires only to please Krishna. Is not interested in these things. Varnashram is alright, but it's a lower principle of religion. The higher principle of religion is the pure devotional service. And Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is also a lower principle of religion. But we are going straight to the higher principle of religion. So that is, I hope this helps. Now, the new message that Bali Maharaj was performing sacrifice just like the demigods. And he was also the devotee of Lord Vishnu. So why does the Lord want the demigods to ultimately replace Bali Maharaj? That don't understand your question. Bali Maharaj was for performing sacrifices, just like the demigods. Yes, he did that because he went to heavenly planets. And Sukacharya said, if you want to remain here, you must do these sacrifices. Otherwise, all these demons cannot stay here. You must become qualified. So yes, the demons were not there in their place. That the Lord had appointed Purandar as Indra. So it was unjust that they went to the heavenly planets, but it was by the power of Sukracharya. That and they had the mercy of Sukracharya, of the Brahmins, the power of the Brahmins. Therefore, they could not be removed. But the Lord wants Purandar to be the Indra. And therefore, this pastime is there. We will hear how the Lord will arrange to put Indra again in the heavenly plans. So, now what Vipachandra, is that okay? That, did I understand your point correctly?
Yes, I think it is. Yes, it is addressed. The concern was that if the demigods, especially under Bali Maharaj, sorry, I mean the demons, especially under Bali Maharaj. Normally, when there's another demon, it's understandable that the Lord wants his own agents who will be submissive to him and will bring about good situation. He wants those people to be in charge. But when Bali Maharaj is there, and the description describes the great blessings he'd received from Brahmanas, and how he was also engaged in the same sacrifices as the demigods are engaged in, and he had brought the worlds under his control. So it seems that he's doing basically everything that the demigods do also.
Yeah.
So that's the question. Why is the Lord not happy with that arrangement?
Yeah, he's not happy with that arrangement. He's happy that Bali Maharaj is there, but not all these demons. These demons, they don't belong there. Therefore, he will have to remove Bali Maharaj, but he will give them in the next Manu the position of Indra. He gets it back. It's just temporary because he have to remove these demons. That's, yes, interesting. And
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj, thank you.
Any other question? Yes, Nadia Bihari, problem. Please.
Maharaj, Bali Maharaj was a devotee, so he, in the first place, why did he overtake the heaven and defeat Indra, not just stay in his place and wherever he was? Because he knew that Indra was sort of appointed by the Lord, and he should, as demons, should not be ruling heaven. So why would he, in the first place, take the decision to overrule Indra?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Of course, Bali was the leader of the demons. He wanted to satisfy the demons also. Because if you have a leader and you are not satisfied, those who are dependent on you, what kind of leader are you? So therefore, he followed the instructions of Sukracharya. Sukracharya, a Smarta Brahmin, following Karma Kandiya. But of course, this Karma Kandiya is not our path. We don't want to put it down, but it's not for devotees. That's because the Sukracharya is also a devotee. He's worshipping Lord Vishnu in his sacrifices for material benefit. And he's very powerful. He's the best spiritual master for the demons. He gives them material benefit. And yes, Bali Maharaj went along with that and got more and more power because he was pleasing Sukracharya, and they could even go to the heavenly planets that by his power they could go there. But in his heart, Bali Maharaj was a pure devotee. He was not interested in going to the heavenly planets, but he desired it for his descendants, for those dependents, because he played his role as the king of the demons. That so he had to play his role, and he played his role up to the point we will see that Sukracharya gives him instructions against devotional service. At that point, he will say no, that I cannot do. That we will hear in the next chapters. Does that help, Nadia Bjarne?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Good. So, any other question?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Mother Emma Gopi.
Maharaj, I was wondering what exactly was the effect of nectar on the demigods. If the demons can overtake them, like you could kill them, you will not get killed, and then you can still continue in heaven. That is the purpose of nectar. So after drinking the nectar, I'm wondering why they're all advised to hide.
Yeah, no, of course, the nectar made them immortal, or so-called immortal, that because finally they will, when their pious activity is finished, they have to leave their heavenly bodies. That the nectar does not help with that, but it keeps them alive as long. That, but the point made here is that they would, although they would be immortal, they would not be able to defeat Bali Maharaj, because he got the blessings of the Brahmins, and the Brahmins are very dear to Krishna. And therefore, Krishna will not interfere. And that is what Brihaspati said to Indra. You will not be able to defeat him. So they will not be able, and therefore, what's the use of trying? And they followed their spiritual master. They became invisible, or they took certain forms. So that's the situation. And Aditi is not happy with that, and we will hear that next tomorrow, how she will express that. Does that help, Mother Emma Gopi?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, then we will meet tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada, Hare Bol.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you.